I have a YouTube channel that I've had for, I don't know, 8 years. And I've basically broken down all the lies and the truth in scripture because they're both there. And I have identified, just as you're recognizing, that the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, and you know what? I gain followers and lose followers every time I say this, and I don't care because it's a fact. And Jesus told everybody that follows Jesus. So you know what? I'm not saying anything he didn't say. In fact, I'm saying the exact same thing. For they say they are Jews, but they lie. They're synagogue of Satan, right? He told you their father is Satan. Okay, their father is Yahweh. Yahweh, the one that tells his servants to kill every man, woman, and child, and everything that creeps, walks, and crawls, as though cockroaches, spiders, and everything else had something to do with the problem. Not only that, any creator of all things that needs someone to kill one of his other creatures, sprinkle its blood on an altar to forgive my sins, because he screwed up so bad on creating me that somehow I have to pay for his inability to make me good. And the good evil guy in the garden, the two of those. I mean, when you understand the nature of all of these things, you understand the details of those, you begin to understand exactly what it is. And see, ladies down, lady, I'll tell you, here's the funny thing. You can put your head in the sand and ignore it all you want, but I can tell you right now, that's the revealing. All things will be revealed in the end, because the fact is, that is not Jesus even told you. So see, you deny even his words. He told you exactly. He said, Father, God. Remember, Satan called himself God. He exalted himself, placed himself on the throne, calls himself God. So Matthew, you asked me my opinion. There's only one person that calls himself God in the Bible. Not even God calls himself God. So, yeah, I totally agree. I understand. It's all there. It's rooted there. The difference is the Talmud is magic in order to accomplish what they did then. So when you had these angels and these people coming, there's magic. I mean, look, John Dee working for Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth first. I mean, taking out, using Enochian magic to take out Spanish armadas. Like on record, the historical documents are theirs. That the sea swallowed them up in this massive squall, like a freaking whirlpool, the whole armada, because of the spell that John Dee was using by using Enochian magic, which is basically all contained throughout the Talmud. I've been studying this stuff in ancient texts all the way back to Aramaic, cuneiform, Sanskrit, you name it, Matthew. And the reason for this is so I could say, like I was saying, that like that Dave guy kept saying the why is not important. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I started to talk about the details of the Jews and their agenda. And he's like, that's irrelevant. We're talking about the liberty. I was like, you don't understand who the people you're talking about. I mean, if you're going to go after people and you're going to try to identify, you have to understand their agenda and their motive. Just like I said, you can't charge somebody with murder without a motive. So how are you going to say that Israel didn't mean to do it unless you even have a motive of the didn't? Why did they then? He said they intentionally attacked the liberty, right? So this is the truth and the lie at the same time, Matthew. He said they intentionally attacked the liberty, but then, and says how he doesn't like Israel and all that, but then tells you kind of that, but it was just an accident. Don't blame Israel. It's an accident. So why? Why are you defending Israel for that? And I said, and then I said, so then why all the cover up? I mean, if they were going to cover that up, and he said, or embarrassment or whatever he said, I said, well, then why aren't they covering up the murdering of the thousands of children? What are you talking about? Then cover that shit up so I don't have to see it every day. How about you help us all out? You want to make something vanish? Make that vanish. Stop doing it. I know who worships Satan in that place. My entire company, I had one guy, and he wasn't Ashkenazi, but one guy that worked for me that believed in God. One. Well, what does that
that's
tell you?
well, what's interesting is when you say that, one guy who believed in God, what comes up for me is which God? Because
Which God?
I
Exactly. I say that
I'm
all the time, bro. You can check my timeline. I say that all the time. God's chosen. Which God?
yeah. I'm curious what your spiritual path has been. I'll just briefly share mine. I'm Christian now, and Jesus came into my
But
life
you're a former
very
Jew, or you are Jewish, though, right?
well. I call myself a former Jew with emphasis on
Former Jew.
former, right?
Sure.
That's what
Got it.
and you're probably familiar with Benjamin Friedman, who gave the very famous, Willard Hotel speech, and he called himself a former Jew. Well, I kind of look at him as a role model. Is that like I'm here on Team Christians, and I'm here to warn my fellow Christians, most of whom have their head firmly in the sand, unfortunately. And I'm like, please let me help you get your head out of the sand. Please, can I help you? I want you to see reality. And some of my closest friends, like who are Christian, like I have Christian friends who are religious leaders. Okay. And I try to talk to them about the truth, what's really happening in the Old Testament, what's really happening in the 5 books of Torah. And they do not want to hear. They don't want.
No,
And
they can't
and
hear.
not only do they not want to hear, here's the other thing they don't want to do, Derek. They absolutely refuse to think. Thinking is so
Yes.
painful for someone who is addicted to something that they were brainwashed into as a child.
Yeah,
And so,
there's a
and I'm
reason
like,
for that.
yeah, go ahead.
No, there's a reason for that. It's first of all, you can call it cognitive dissonance, but here's the reality of the situation is, and this is a brilliant quote that I heard from this guy, and I wish I could remember his name just so I could give you his name, but it's not my quote. It was just some guy that I met, and he said, "You cannot reason someone out of a position that they never reasoned themselves into." And it made me understand that because you just grew up with it, like, look, grandma, grandpa, great grandpa, we have all been this religion. This is true. It has to be. So they cannot accept it at all. Otherwise, it changes their identity. And see, and that's where the Old Testament and the New Testament come in. And that's what I do, Matthew. So you talk to you say you're a Christian now. All I teach is Christ in you. That's all I teach. That's all I talk about. Because the reality is Christ said everything. I don't need to talk to Paul. Paul's an operation. I don't need to hear from anybody else. If Christ didn't say it all and everything that he needed to say, well, then he failed his mission, and I know he didn't fail. Right. So I also have lots of different understandings because I've gone back through everything. I mean, literally, I've gone through, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different variations and ages of the Bible, going all the way back to the late 1600s and then 1800s. The 1600s one, I had to actually stand back behind a wall and look at it and ask them to turn pages for me. So, that was the best I could do. But the 1800s one I owned it and go through that. You're talking entirely different books. People don't realize how manipulated they have been.
Wow. Can you
And
say more about that? Like what's changed, some examples? And I'm also
oh,
curious,
sure.
and just a second part to that question is, was there ever a version of Torah that was not full of all the evil genocidal crap, or has it always been that way?
Never, never. Actually, the funny thing is it's evil genocidal crap. But here's the crazy part. I always ask people, I go, look, Satan, right? He's the enemy. He's the killer. He's the bad guy, right? Yeah. And they go, yeah. And I go, okay, show me in the Old Testament all of the Satan's evil works. Surely if he's this evil, he's got a shit ton of evil works to show for, right? And they think about it and they go, well, Job. And I go, no, no, no. First of all, Job's the oldest book that's in the Bible, the canon, so to speak, if you want to call it that.
Wait, is Job older than Torah, than the 5 books of Torah?
Job is part of the 5 books of Torah, but it's one of the oldest books. It's like it goes back so far. They have evidence of it going back so far. They really can't even tell you for sure, but it even seems older than most people think. So the book of Job is very, very old. But here's the thing about it. That's where Satan appears, right? He appears there, and then he appears to Abraham when he's about to sacrifice his son as an old man, telling him, God would never tell you to kill your son. So there, the word that they use for Satan is opposer, right? And then the other one they use for it was also opposer, but had an emphasis on it's a Lord, a God. So here's the whole thing. Satan in the book of Job was in heaven with the angels. The angels were gathered around the throne of God, and Satan lounged among them. Lounged. Literally, the word, when you can convert it into it's like lounged among them. And God says to Satan, where have you been? And he said, I've been going up and down, to and fro on the earth. Draw a line with your fingers, go up and down, and then to and fro, left and right. What do you see? It's a cross. I've been crossing the earth. He's the cross. He's the one that kills. He's the God of this world. I've been going, I'm the cross. I'm the murderer. He admits to it there in the book of Job. But he doesn't do any evil works. He does exactly what God asks him to do. Go down there, Take everything away from Job, but just don't kill Job. Don't raise your hand to him. Let him live, but kill everything, kill everybody else. Kills his whole family, destroys them, wipes them out. Just so Job can come back, learn a bunch of BS and be challenged by literally a bunch of angels, which is what it was, and then come back and have to beg for forgiveness for losing all of his stuff. And God said, no, I'm going to reward you because you stayed faithful to me the whole time, and gave him, 10 times back. It's like, great. I really like my original wife. Thank you very much, psycho. But I mean, people don't read that story for what it is. It's like, that's nutty. But there's a lot in there that is philosophical and also structural. There's a lot of other lessons in there that's an entirely different space, because you got to go through cryptography and everything. What people have been hiding the stuff in scriptures now for thousands of years, and in text. Cryptography is and the languages and how they use them. That's also cryptography. There's lots of ways to create it. So yes, but the New Testament and Christ's words alone, he told you everything. Our Father, right? Not my Father, not their Father, ours. And he said that you would do greater works than he did. And he prayed in his high priestly prayer that you would have everything that he did. Said, Father, all of me is in you, all of you is in me, and I want all of them to have exactly what I have. He didn't say some, he said all of it. So there you go. And he also told you who the God of the Old Testament was, over and over and over and over. He kept telling you who the ruler of this world was. I mean, that's the whole point. And here's the thing. And here's why they like him so much. Here's why people like him so much. I'm going to finish with this. I'll let you run, Matthew. I'll just shut up forever. I'll let you roll as long as you want. It's amazing to me that I'll get into it because it'll take too long and I don't want to hold you up. So go ahead. Just go ahead.